Hello, it's Mark Outward. Welcome to. I found this in the wardrobe this morning. I don't know who actually gave it to me because I can't remember. Because when I was in America, I just got given loads of things and it's just a blur of faces. So if you're watching, thank you for the t-shirt. And do give me your name in the chat and then I'll say hello. Hello, William Stafford. Yes, it is good to see Peter back on in a minute. Hello, Judith Bisson. How are you? Louise Davis. Afternoon. Jennifer M. Hello. Louise Unson. Bonjour de Paris. C'est normal. Great to see you all here. I'm going to bring Peter on now because not seen you in a while, have I?
No, I think both of us have been very busy, but you in particular, the nomad, as it were.
Yeah, I mean you can see it here. Look, it's been amazing, but I'm still at it.
Yeah,
and so are you.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So let's give I'm just while I just go and let the cat in because she's scratching at the door because she's just come out of a cat hotel and she's very pleased to be home.
Yeah.
Because I had to pop off for a few days. Just tell everybody that might not have seen you before the background.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, if you haven't seen me before, I mean, I've sort of like ex-forces, ex-martial arts gym owner, ex-professional fighter. I've been there, seen it, done a lot, and all that time been studying law at the same time. So, and then changing it to be more along, let's just say the people's law, kind of common law, natural law, rather than legislation. Combating legislation, shall we say.
Combating fraudulent legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because you had a run in with the mortgages, didn't you? If I remember rightly, 10 years ago. Was it during the last?
Well, we 2007. We lost everything. So that was we had a lot of property all over, like the United States as well as England, plus our own home, and we lost everything. So we literally in a suitcase and off we went. That was it, and then moved over to Spain to I don't know, actually. I don't know what we did. We just I set up a gym over there, martial arts gym, but it was just like, boom, let's get the hell out of here. I've had enough of all of this nonsense, so off we went. But so, I mean, the thing is, we had known everything had been wrong anyway, but I was actually working in the mortgage industry. And then we went into, property development from there. And even then, how dirty it is. And then looking back and then trying to help other people and, going through sort of like what we had went through, for a fact that it was all set up on purpose, just waiting to happen so that they could take everyone's property, So, and then from there, what I wanted to do was to try and help more people so that it would stop that happening again. And I think really it's happened again since then, but now I think you're looking at the biggest and greatest one that's ever been in history, or our lifetime history anyway, is going to happen in the next couple of years. Well, maybe even the next couple of months
or next couple of days. It's any time. It's any time. Well, I'm let's stick with property for a little minute because I might repeat a few stories, but there's a lot more subscribers to the channel than there was last time I spoke to you. So with property, but I think it really hit me. So let's talk about property. So my first house was in Manchester, and I bought it as a student, and I got a fake letter saying I got a job, and it was 26,000 quid, and I got a mortgage, and it was a piece of cake, and but then it was in negative equity for the next 10 years because it was in Moss Side, which the day I moved in, the Sunday Times brought out a magazine with a picture of a 10-year-old kid in a balaclava with a gun, and said Moss Side, the most dangerous area of Britain, and I was like, I just moved in. But I realized over time, I think when I realized the word mortgage is French, mortgage, death grip, effectively.
Yeah.
And then you look into it and you realize that actually they just create the money. In fact, it's your money because it's all to do with your birth certificate and all of that, isn't it? When they give you a mortgage.
Very much so, but it's even worse than that in a lot of ways, because let's just say, for instance, you're going to go into the bank, right? I know you can't really do that nowadays, but right back when you were doing it, you went in there and, you know, you're going to sign what you think is the mortgage application or even a loan application, all right? Even a credit card application. It's all the same thing. What you are actually signing, what you are giving your sign of nature to, your energy, your power, is literally a financial instrument. And it's a financial instrument that has a cash value when you give it your energy. So some people could call it a promissory note. Yeah. So a lot more people might actually know that term rather than a financial instrument. And probably because on that term, they use that term in your mortgage contract. Now, I know no one's going to read the mortgage contract. All right, you pick it up and it's like, look, read that, all of those pages on a no one's going to do that. No. But, you know, funnily enough, like I've been helping this woman in the Republic, and we read her mortgage contract, and it stated once you have provided your signature, they can securitize this financial instrument as many times as we wish, as long as we have your signature the one time, we never have to ask for it again. And she read it, and she said, what does that mean? Doesn't even make any sense to me. So what? And they're admitting it. They're not even trying to hide it. On the contract, you go in, you sign it, give it your sign of nature. It then becomes cash value, literally. So it has a cash value of, just say, 100,000 that you've signed for. You are on the impression that you're going to borrow that money. You've literally created cash. The bank then deposits it as their asset in their bank account, and then transfer it over through some little buttons, right? And it appears as if you have borrowed money, even though you created it. Okay. But they still have the security instrument, the financial security instrument, which is negotiable. What does that mean? It means that they can negotiate a sale of it on the securities exchange, as well as making you repay, not pay it back. Listen to the language they use, repay it with interest to them, right? And they're going to sell the actual document or the security instrument on the securities exchange. So what you've done is that you've actually went into debt, it looks like, for say the 100,000, but you've actually given them 100,000. So they're £100,000 in profit already. Then you're going to be repaying them every month. So they're going to get even more profit. Then they actually sell the security instrument on the stock exchange. Let's just say they've done it once, but they don't. They do it many times. So they're going to get another 100,000 again. And you're still stuck there thinking you're 100,000 in debt, and you actually have to keep repaying it every single month. So you know, that is the truth about the actual any loan, right? But let's just say the mortgage industry, and every single one of them, be it credit card, right? You'll sign it up for a £5,000 limit. That's the actual security instrument value, not you going and, you know, getting 50 quid's worth of fuel in your car. You have created the £5,000 or whatever it would be, you know, like euros. That is the value of the security instrument that you've created. So when you actually take that and they're selling it, okay, they're making all that profit, and you're the actual one in debt, they can never ever prove ever that they've actually like lent you money or you've borrowed it, because there is no accounting for it. So they've actually broken every rule in the book, even their own rules that they've made up, but like generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, and they can't do it. We've actually got now a firm that can do what they call an audit on the accounts, right? A forensic audit, and it shows point blank, well, where was the money? Where did it come from? You know, you try doing that. Go and buy a house for $1 million. Then the HMRC says, hang on, where did that money come from? So I'm not telling you. None of your business. See how far you get. But they do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's insanity, you know.
It's fraud on such a massive scale. And people are still got it in their heads that they need to buy houses. They need to buy a house. They need to buy a house. And I'm like, anybody that says that to me, I'm like, just wait. Don't buy a house right now. It's insane. Don't get a mortgage. It's insane. Don't pay cash for a house. That's insane too. But they've squeezed everything. They've made it in Ireland. There's hardly anything for rent right now. I think there was a piece in the paper about a month ago that said there were like 700 properties in the entire country that were on the market for rent. And there's only one place you can get a mortgage from, or I think there's only one bank that gives mortgages here, and they're making it really hard. And I'm finding this quite interesting that they're not giving mortgages, or they're making it very difficult for people right now. I don't know whether you've noticed any changes in the market, because you speak to a lot of people that give you any indication that there is a new financial system hiding in the background of this one.
Well, that unfortunately, there are so many people that don't realize that this new financial system is already up and running. And, you know, I try to assist people into preparing them for like this new financial system, which is going to hit them straight in the face. And you get, oh, I'm scared of this cryptocurrency. I don't like this thing. Well, look, we're already on a digital currency. You're already moved to digital. They're just not showing you it yet. And unless you prepare yourself, and you're going to end up on the wrong side of it, there's your cat.
Yeah. Hello.
They're going to be in serious trouble, you know. And think about, why is it the banks are closing left, right, and center all over England, all over the UK. And there was people showing me videos when they were going up to cash machines, and as soon as they put the card in the cash machine, the first thing comes up saying this cash machine is closing in 3 months. You know, before they've actually taken anything out. So, you know, they're going to make it harder and harder and harder to actually use cash, because everything's going to change. So,
like, you know, 2 years ago it was 30 quid tap, then it was 50 quid tap. And I just went to England, and somebody said it was like 70 quid, please. And I went to put it in, and they said, no, you can tap it. I went, what's the limit now? It's 100 quid now.
Yeah.
And David Icke said this was going to happen years ago. And, you know, my personal experiences, I've got a few experiences I want to share with the audience. One is during the crash 09, I had a business, and it was like the walls came closing in really quickly, and I had to put it into administration and then buy it back. So that's when I started working with these liquidators from London, who are literally like rats, like they kind of make that noise in a meeting. I remember this guy saying, "Oh, there's a lot of fat in this business." He was like Hannibal Lecter, and I was like, "God, this guy's horrible." They tried to screw us, but somehow I got through that, and I got an investment and rebuilt it. But during that process, there was a couple of things. I remember Lloyd's TSB had my wife at the time in tears, because they were withholding all of our credit card money that we'd taken from customers on credit card, because they said we were representing a risk to them. And I was like, what are you talking about? I got on the phone to them and said, and I started speaking to this guy, and he said, no, you can't have your money. Basically, he was saying, you can't have your money. And I said, well, you're going to put us out of business, and we're not going to be able to pay people's wages. What are you doing? And the guy was literally like a robot, right? And so I came up with something back then. This is 2009, because I'm an internet marketer, so you know, by trade for the last 20 years. So I came up with this thing. Lloyd's TSB stole our money, and I took a picture of my wife crying, and I wrote this thing saying da 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 da. And I sent it to them with press release. I said, this press release is going to go out on Thursday, and this is where I'm going to send it, and I'm going to put it at the top of Google for all of these search terms. Guess what happened?
Got your money.
Got the money next day. And then the same thing happened a few years later with a solicitor. So we had this thing going with, I think it was HSBC. I think we got £3,000 credit card debt or something like that. And then after the crash, they said, oh, you've not paid this, and you owe us 30,000 quid. And we were like, what? And then I was like, well, show us the piece of paper where we signed any agreement that says that we owe you that money. And they came back and they lied through their teeth. They said, here it is. It was signed on this date by Mrs. Atwood, right? And then she turned around and said, I was riding a horse in the west of Ireland on a beach that day. I couldn't possibly have signed it. And I got kicked by a horse. I was in hospital. How that's a lie. They literally lied to us. And then so I decided to fight them. And this was a stressful time. And I took on this solicitor who I met in London. And he took us to the steps of, this is the way they describe it. We went to the steps of the court, and then the solicitor represented, they're all in this together, by the way, guys, all of them. Mm-hmm. The solicitor representing the bank with the solicitor representing us said, oh, we'll take an offer. And I think it was 3 times I said, no, take it to court, because we didn't sign anything. There's no proof. And then on the 3rd time, my wife at the time said, just settle for whatever. So I think I settled for like 7,000 quid, just because this is the way the system works, right? You've got your life going on, and you're getting this pain pecking. There's like woodpecker on your head. And you're like, well, I'm going to beat the woodpecker, or by sustaining it, because it's going to run out of energy, or I can just give it what it wants. There, have some wood now, fuck off, right? So I made this decision. You've got to pick your battles. And I said, okay, we'll settle for this amount of money. And the solicitor said, great. Now you need to pay me in installments over the next year. 4 months later, 5 months later, or maybe 6 months later, I got a CCJ. For Americans watching this, that's a county court judgment, right, for not paying an agreed amount. So they gave me a CCJ, which affects your credit score, and it screws you up for getting loans, mortgages, credit cards, everything. And I was like, what the hell is this for? And I found out that I'd been paying the solicitor, but he'd been keeping the money. Then I had to fight the solicitor. And he was shouting at me, and we went to the solicitors ombudsman, I think they're called, or the solicitors society. They're all in it together, right? So that got nowhere. So I did the same thing. I said, late Jackson stole my money, because he did, right? And I put it up, and he was threatening me with all sorts. Guess what happened?
Went away.
I got the money. And the reason I'm telling these stories is because I've learned over time that when you actually stand up, you'll win. It's all based on fear. I did a meme years ago saying the whole world is run on red ink and yellow paint. You know, like every time I come down this road, it's hilarious. There's a little mini roundabout at the top of the road. And I see people where there's no other traffic going all the way around the mini roundabout and then coming down. And I'm like, what are they doing? Just turn and go over it. Yeah. We're so unbelievably easy to control and manipulate. But what's been interesting in the last 3 years is that people like you have popped up and started trying to help people and educate them on what we'd call natural law and common law, God's law. I mean, you said something interesting there that I don't think I've heard before. I've forgotten. Your sign of nature, your signature. And that is actually worth. See, I won't sign anything now. I get asked to sign things all the time. I think of like parcels and things like that. I'm not signing. I will have to take it away. But I'll take it away then, and I'll sue you because you're stealing my property. It's just so standing. So what's your experience been? Because we met a couple of years ago online. How, you know, obviously there was a lot of people during this becoming aware that hang on, the system's not right. By the way, guys, you know, in terms of money, there is on my email list, if you in the description underneath, that I send an email out with a link to a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin, which is essential reading. And when I started this show, I put that in my emails immediately because I thought everybody needs to understand how money in and of itself is a tool of our enslavement. And when you understand the fractional reserve banking system, which G. Edward Griffin explains in that book, The Creature of Jekyll Island is really the story of the birth of, not the birth, but the takeover of the Federal Reserve Bank in 1913. I think it was 1913.
Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, which was followed immediately by World War I. And I think they deliberately sank the Titanic to get rid of board members that opposed it. And, you know, they've just got worse and worse and worse over the last 100 years. And that's why we've all got to get educated about money. Because I did a degree in economics, 3 years at Manchester Polytechnic. Nobody ever mentioned the fractional reserve banking system. Not one of the lecturers even asked what is money, because we were just told it replaced barter. And it was a medium of exchange. I mean, it's a devilishly brilliant system that they put in place. And because we're born into it, but they don't teach us anything about it at school. They don't teach us anything about managing money. They teach us nothing. They want us completely financially illiterate, and they surround it with flowery words. And even now, I was in Derby the other day, and I went to a cash point that didn't work. But what it did do is say, "We proudly support the Pride movement," and then a rainbow-coloured flag. I think that was
my God.
I think that was the was that Santander or the Alliance and Lesser? And the banks, they're complete satanic criminals, which is why we need to get as much knowledge together as we can. So the question for you is, well, that's a bit long-winded, but what have you? Because just to explain, what's your website again, Peter?
ClaimYourStrawman.com.
ClaimYourStrawman.com. I'll put it on the screen. I'll put it on the link after the video's gone up. So strawman. So people have been looking into what is a strawman, and when you started, you've had thousands of people come to you for help. What changes have you noticed since we last spoke in terms of, are people doing this? Are they claiming their strawman? Are they having success with this? What's going on from your point of view?
I think the main thing is that more and more people are actually starting to become aware that this is real, for starters. Okay, that like the straw man is literally you getting cloned from birth, which is all tied to what you were talking about on the money side, which is like, what? It's not money, it's fiat currency. So fiat is literally fake. Excuse me. And this is your straw man is your capitalized name. So if you look that we on the screen there, it's got like the lowercase, because that is actually us a man. All right, or I would call it like I a man. Whenever I write I a man, it's the lowercase I, not the capital, because on the lowercase it's got the dot above, which is the head, which is alive. The capitalized version, imagine it's flat and they've cut the head off, so it's dead, it's decapitated. So they capitalize your name through the birth system. So when you're born, all right, imagine, right, you're being birthed like a ship. Okay, the whole thing is maritime. That's why you're actually come through the birthing canal. Why is it called a birthing canal? You're coming out of your mother's waters and getting into the dock or the actual, and you're in a delivery room. So delivery is conveyancing. So they're actually delivering the conveyancing actual cargo to the dock. So that's all they're doing with you. You are a cargo. And they actually say it there, you're a cargo without soul, because they take your, in their version, in their eyes, in their mind, they take your soul, and you are a thing. Okay, and that is it. So then once you're a thing, they actually create you now from your living entity onto a 2D piece of paper, your birth certificate, BERTH, all right, which is a manifest, which is literally how they tax ships going into harbor. So they've actually took you as a vessel going into harbor, and they make a birth certificate, a manifest of taxation, and that's how they're going to tax you for the rest of your living. And that is a 2D piece of paper, is the straw man, and it is fully capitalized. And it's not even the one that you get, that you take away with you. It's got either your 10 boxes or your 17 boxes. They do a separate one, which is what they actually create it and send it to the different departments, including the Vatican. So that is your straw man, your capitalized name. And if you want proof of it, have a look at your passport, have a look at your driving license, right? Whatever you look at, any official form, it's all capitalized, even your headstone when you die. Now, if you look at, here's an interesting thing though. So when you're born, right, just saying you get it like your birth, and you can put down as, say, me, Peter, right? But when it, and then you get the what do you call it? Even a credit card, Mr. Peter Wilson, all capitalized. On the title, Mr. Peter Wilson, on the driving license, Mr. Peter Wilson on the birth certificate. And when you go to the headstone, right, it's just all in capitals, but it just says Peter Wilson, no Mr. Why? Because you're not worth anything anymore. So they have your title created Mr. when you were born. There is your straw man. Once you're dead, they don't need you anymore. So they actually remove the Mr. and now it's just Peter Wilson, full capitalized, dead on the headstone. All right. So have a look next time you're wandering through. I've got this habit of checking them all, saying, look, say I told you. Look, say I told you. And it's like, Janine's going mad, shut up and leave me alone. But, and that's a fact. So that's how they create the straw man. Now, your straw man is what they use to charge all of your bills with, all of your fines, anything like that, taxation, social security, whatever you want to call it, national insurance, all of that. It's all done on that capitalized name. And you believe, because they've tricked you into believing it, that is you, and they make you responsible for paying it.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I get an envelope with a window and capitalized name, well, that's an internal memo, isn't it? When it's a window,
it's your coffin, isn't it? It's that little box. It's your coffin to keep you in a box.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I just write on it, blah 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 blah, return to sender, addressee not recognized, because I don't recognize it because that's not me.
No, exactly.
It looks like it's me, but it isn't me. So I send it back, return to sender, addressee not recognized. But it does create, and I've talked to quite a few people on the channel about this. Did you ever see Stacey's World Rocks? When I interviewed Stacey?
Yeah, yeah.
And she, I had bumped into her accidentally in Cornwall, and she's doing brilliant work, and she takes zero shit and gives zero fucks, and she's just going around telling people just stop paying this and stop paying this, just stop buying into the system. But then you've got this issue because it's I've been taking myself out of the system with your help and other, and I've done other things. I've interviewed Sovereign Pete as well, who's got a really good website called the Sovereign Project, I think it is.
Sovereign Project, I think, something like that. Yeah.
And there's people doing really good stuff about this. And I first started learning about what they call common law. I think it's over a process over time, over the last 20 years, really. And I've told the story many times before of how I used some of this knowledge to get rid of bailiffs, because the bailiffs came for the TV license money. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I refute your implied right of access to this property. Please leave. And he left. And I was like, whoa, this is powerful, because it really is all about intimidation. Even when they redesign the uniforms of the police, it's about intimidation. They want you to be scared, and they act, and they don't have to do much, because they just act like they're like sheepdogs. One dog can control a field of 200 sheep just by threatening them. Then they all go over there. It's genius. And but are you feeling optimistic? Have you got any? Well, yeah, let's ask you that question. Are you feeling optimistic still? Because I said to you before we came on air, I was like, 3 years.
I know. But the thing, I still feel optimistic, but I'm trying to help as many people as possible, sort of like you get the head around this, because and I've been studying more and more and more all the time. The good thing is, well, is it good? I don't know. I closed the gym, right? I closed my own gym down. I was finding it difficult to cope with people that were trying to push their children into getting poisoned.
Yeah.
So
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that gave me time to do more studying. So I was studying. I study legislation as well as law, because it's completely different. You got to, a lot of people don't realize that. And I think, the flying monkeys in their yellow suits that you're talking about there, the clowns in costumes, 100%, they haven't got a clue. They think that they are the law. They are nothing but policy enforcement officers trying to actually get more money for the corporation. They have no jurisdiction.
They are corporate officers.
Yeah.
Then people just don't get that. They work for a corporation. The government is a corporation.
It is. Yeah. For-profit limited companies. So, I mean, our local one, Northumbria Police, I looked up the DUNS number just when they were getting all of these, before they got all of the COVID fines, from 2021. And, but the 2019, theirs was their profits, Duns number means you can only get a Duns number, Duns and Bradstreet, if you are a for-profit limited company. You can't get it if you're not a for-profit limited company. So they're on there, our local Northumbria police, and they had put their profits or from sales, profits from sales. That's what was written on it at 1.6 million. But that was 2019. I bet it's like way higher than that, you know, with all the fines for all the ridiculousness. And most people through fear will just pay it, you know, but you've got to try and find out, because again, if you imagine, you were talking about solicitors before, do you know they're not even allowed to speak in court? They have no jurisdiction to speak in court. So, you know, we've got, I can't really say too much. We've got a couple of big court cases going on at the minute. And I'm looking forward to trying to get the guy I'm helping. It's just as soon as the barrister starts speaking to say objection, hearsay, you can't speak, because you're only allowed to speak on any lawful case that you have first-hand knowledge of the case, of the facts. Well, which barrister, which solicitor, which lawyer has first-hand knowledge of any case that they're talking about? They can only say what they've been told. What is the law on what you've been told? That is hearsay. It's inadmissible in court. That's legislation. So you can use their rules against them. You have to stop talking. You're not allowed to speak. You've got no first-hand knowledge on this case. The judge will have to rule in favor of the objection if he's not, you know, taking a backhander of a couple of grand a day. But that's a fact. The jurisdiction, right, or lies with you, and then you can actually state hearsay. You have no first-hand evidence. You have no first-hand knowledge of the case. You're only talking hearsay evidence, and you shut them down, you know? So it's quite handy to know. You just got to try and, like, I know it might be boring. Like, a lot of people say, oh, it's too long-winded, and go on the government legislation. It is hard to read. You know, it's certainly not exciting, but some of the stuff in there, like, they don't want you to know what they're doing. That's the thing. So they make it boring, so you don't know.
Yeah, they make it like inadmissible, you know, because people just go, oh, I can't be asked for that. I'll just pay that. It drives me nuts. It always reminds me of, I went to a meeting with a doctor. This is not to do with the money, but it's the same thing. You know, I went for a meeting with a doctor about my mum's alleged cancer, and he terrified her reading this bollocks to her. And I questioned him on it, and she just went, oh, where do I sign? And I went, oh, God, Mum. And that gave them the right to give her chemo. And I'm just going to grab something.
Yeah, no worries. Which, again, you know, just while we're waiting on him coming back, again, it was like, you know, when you're talking about debts and talking about property and everything like that, is why you want to be looking at, like, and you're going in the public, all right, lawful power of attorney, lasting power of attorney, or an enduring power of attorney if you're in the Republic. All right, same type of thing. Stop people bullying you if you're in a medical or financial position, you know, that you might be feeling vulnerable. Okay, so people get put into hospital. Now, again, this week we've just had a friend there who was in hospital. They wanted to turn the machine off, right? And they would have turned the machine off and let him die if his wife hadn't have been there with a lasting power of attorney. She said, no, you're not doing that. Now he's at home and he's fine, having a cup of tea. You know, yeah, he was ill, right? He's ill, kill him, right? You must get that lasting power of attorney, or in, like, the Republic, I say, the enduring power of attorney for your property and finance, as well as for your health and wellness, or health and welfare, you know. And again, it's public and it's legislation, but start to learn how to be private, but know when you can dip in and actually take the public side and use their legislation against them. Okay, which is why I have the hats. Yeah. So you want to go into private. You want to be private, but then when you want to argue with them, go into public, dip in the public, and then keep swapping your hat from private to public, and you can sort them out. You got to be doing it. You got to learn these things.
I like that. I mean, I want to talk to you about private trusts, but the thing that popped into my head while I was talking about my mum and the chemotherapy, which is really mustard gas. I mean, that's what kills people. is because there was it's totally evil. All of it from birth. I've done lots of videos about birth and health, and it's all connected because it's all part of the satanic system. But yeah, there was a video I put. It just reminded me of a video I put up on my Telegram channel. I think it was last week of a woman from about 40, 50 years ago, and she said, "We already have the cure. It's this."
Oh yeah.
That's the cure. You just rub it into your skin, right as rain. This costs 10 quid. And how much do they get paid when they do chemo? £70,000, I think it is.
Oh yeah. It's all just finance. You are literally just a cash cow for them, and that's all it is for. So the again, maybe going off topic a little bit here, but like I was listening to someone talking who had been put through treatment to become transgender. They were a girl and now they wanted to be a boy, and then they've kind of realized what's going on. It says like, even now I've changed my mind. I am a customer of big pharma for life, or I will die. So I mean, I don't know how the effects of it would be true if that, but it literally, if you're going to like mess with your hormones like that, then you're going to go on to these you are literally just a factory for their chemicals. And the pharmaceutical industry is just going to take it over, and that's you going to pay them for the rest of the life. Same thing for the chemotherapy. It's just another way of getting money out of you. That's all it's for. The whole thing for the vaccine, the great big. Oh, you're still not allowed to say that, are you not?
Oh.
Yeah. So like it's just all money. It's just a big merry-go-round like that, and we get put in there. Exactly. That's all you need. Stuff like that. Everything natural. It's
it's got it's H2O2, so it's just oxygen basically. Anyway, private trusts.
Yes,
we have spoken about these before, but it's been a year, I think, since we did, and I just want to introduce that idea more to people, because this is what the aristocracy, the elites, they all use private trust, don't they?
They use a mixture, like private and public. Again, you've got to do some stuff private, some stuff public. But for sure, the trusts, no matter how you do it, you should be looking into a trust. I would say private. Everything should be private. But if nothing, do some kind of trust. And it's like, this is the biggest sort of like drain of wealth that you'll ever see. Now, what is it that the wealthy or the elite that they call themselves, what is it they're fearful of is mainly for us, but they don't want us to become them. Okay, so they don't want us having the wealth that will move up with them. So if you imagine so many different scenarios, it's not just about, I don't want to pay me council tax, so I want to protect my property, although that would be a clever thing to do if you want to try anything like that. All right, but from most people, their main asset in life is going to be their home. Okay, but the way that the wealthy have got it, they own nothing. Their names are not on anything. So when they pass, when they die, whatever assets they have, just move along the family line. All right. But what they say, because like you mentioned it before, the education is simply there just to hide us, really. So they don't teach us anything about finance or money creation or wealth creation or wealth enhancement, or actually to keep it, wealth protection, asset protection. So on our general terms, and some people further down south, they've got, it's easy to have a property worth over $500,000, $1 million, just because it's the family home. And the thing is, what people don't realize is, oh, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to inherit the home from my dad. It's worth $1 million. I'm going to pay inheritance tax, but I'll just sell the house. You can't. Because what happens is it goes into probate, and the probate won't let you sell the house. So then you've got this massive bill over you, all right? So, but you can't sell it to get it out, the liquid, because it's an illiquid asset, all right? It's sit there and then bricks and mortar. You can't get it in because it's in probate. They'll not give you a grant of probate because you owe the bill. Hang on, chicken and egg, but that's it. So what do? They take the whole lot as a fee, all right? That's a penalty. So, and it's just that trap. Now, just say, for instance, you did have enough money in the bank to pay the inheritance tax. you've lost you've lost half of your family's wealth, right, through the inheritance tax. Okay, and that's what they do time and time again. Every time someone dies, all right, then you lose half of the family's wealth. So you're not actually gaining in wealth, all right, as they move up, along the line. Whereas, like in their case, the wealthy, they never pay inheritance tax, all right. So their wealth continues in the family, which is why they had, a reasonable house to a big house to a huge mansion to like now they own like massive estates. That's just the way it's worked. It's protected through trust. You don't allow it to go into the estate. Okay. So when you're looking at things like that, the best thing that we always say, like, old Klausy Schwabby Bobby, he's going to say we're going to own nothing and be happy, right? Well, they say it was John D. Rockefeller, but, whatever, it's a very clever saying, own nothing, control everything.
Right.
At me. Yeah, but own nothing, control everything. So have your property put in a trust where you can control it, but because you're not the owner, you have no assets to attack, then there's nothing that can take off you. All right. And it's for many different ways. Like the biggest huge industry that you'll see nowadays is care homes, old people's homes, putting them into nursing homes, give them one aspirin. Now they're under nursing care. Doesn't matter. So, I was talking to someone yesterday, it was like £6,000 a month to be in a basic place, and what they'll do is when you go into the care home is they're going to take your family home, and that's it, and everything. So I think they'll take it all away. They'll not pay a penny towards any care costs if you've got anything valued over 23,000. Well, that's not really a lot, is it? If you've got a home, so once it drops to 23, between 23 and 14 in the UK anyway, or 14,250, they'll pay a portion. So they want you below 14,250, then they'll move you into a grotty little hole, and very coincidentally, you'll probably die within weeks.
Well, that happened to my granddad. That's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's a care home here, and I'm not going to say anything publicly, but I've got a very demanding cat. So give me a second. Go on then. Reverse. With the good news is there's a lot more people aware of this sort of thing than there were. And do you remember? I think we've talked about this guy before. I think he's passed on, but there was a guy in the UK called John who was going around giving talks on this stuff about 10, 15 years ago. And, and he got under terrible attack for doing this. And I think I don't know, but I think it contributed to his demise in health. And he's no longer with us. Mm-hmm. And you've been attacked yourself. I've been attacked for doing all of this stuff. It's it's a system that really doesn't want us to. It's all occult. At the end of the day, the word occult means hidden, and it's our ignorance that keeps us in this system, combined with constant prodding and fear. Because it does take balls. When I first stood up to the bailiff many years ago, I was shaking, because I was like, "Oh, I'm stepping outside of the system." I was aware of it, and it was a real energetic thing. And that's why I think a lot of this stuff, learning this stuff, starts here, because it's like, wow, I've got to undo everything I thought I knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of what we sort of try and get everyone to understand when we're talking, it's not just about doing the paperwork, setting up oh, look, I'm going to have a private trust. Okay, so you've got paperwork set up. Our paperwork as well, we tie it in with legislation. Okay, so it is private trust, but it actually states in there, I can't remember, Companies Act 2006, an express trust does not have to be registered with the HMRC. So they're trying to bring in new legislation now. But if you're setting up a trust in equity, it's a different legislation, right? You're not in the same jurisdiction. And that's all it is, jurisdiction. So that just means the authority. So it hasn't got authority over your trust. So the thing is, you've got to learn how to actually believe in yourself as a man or a woman, knowing that you are of the creator. So, you know, like David Icke's one of the first ones, if you like, one of the most famous that for being attacked. Oh, he says he's the son of God. He didn't say that whatsoever. He was saying we are children of God, which I don't even like that word, but definitely of the Creator, and we stand under the Creator. There is no one else that can judge me apart from the Creator. So I'm certainly not going to be worried about what any like clown in a costume or anybody on a like a lollipop man on, but on a Thursday he's a magistrate, right? You know, so like I stand as a man under the Creator, and that's where I take my spirituality from. And the only I haven't got fear, because the Creator would never do you any harm. And it's like when it's your time to go and have another adventure somewhere else, then that's going to happen. So who cares anyway? I'm certainly not bothered about leaving this realm. You know, it is what it is. Get to know that, knowing that you are a man or a woman, and you can't stand under legislation anyway. So you don't have to have any fear of their legislation and that clown in a costume or that barrister or whoever it would be that tries to bully you. And that's all it is, just bullying.
Yeah, it is. It's just bullying.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, you know, your whole life, it is like from school, going into school. It's just that massive indoctrination to me. Now you have to be a good boy, sit down now, stand up now. You're allowed to get your dinner for half an hour. Then you have to go back and sit down over there, stand in the line, be straight. You know, they used to whip us when I was at school. We had a cat of nine tails, getting whipped with a cat of nine tails. I actually thought they were getting out bits of licorice. I thought, oh, that looks good. And then you bent over whipping you. Oh, like, bloody hell. Don't want any more of that licorice.
Yeah. I mean, I spent most of my early school years stood in the corridor. After being sent out of the class, they couldn't really contain me. But the threat of violence was huge. But now I think that's why they took the violence away, because they realized that the violence actually created more rebellious kids, and they do it more psychologically now. Yeah. Whilst under the guise of making it look like they're caring people, because children shouldn't be hit. But the psychological abuse is far worse now than it used to be. And it's the same as the reason why they put pictures of lungs congested with tar on cigarette packets now, and smoking harms you. It's because the psychology is that makes the smokers smoke more, because it generates fear in their mind, which makes them reach for more cigarettes. So actually, what they did when they did that, at the same time as part of their contract, is to make, well, we're a caring government, and we're gonna. If they really cared, they just ban the cigarettes.
Yeah,
they don't give a shit. So the psychology is they lock you in, and you know, anybody that's ever done Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking, which I've done many times, would tell you that all the cigarette advertising is designed to instill fear. You know, they did things like Benson and Hedges did an advert with a baby in a cot, and then these things like I can't remember what you call them, the things that you put over cots that entertain babies.
Yeah, the mobiles.
Mobiles, that's it. But these were mobiles that were like axes and anvils, and so smoking when pregnant harms the baby. Pregnant woman sees that, shits herself, goes and buys a pack of cigarettes, has more. That's how the psychology works. Silk Cut did films about amputation. Jaws was a fin, purple fin going through the water. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They did it. It's all there, and you know we just gotta wake up.
Exactly. Wake up to all of the scamming, because that's all. It's literally 100% control, which is, you know, what they're pushing even more now. So, you know, on the 15-mile sort of like nonsense that they're trying to do. Well, they are doing, like, you know, in Oxford, but only for the ones that are not, like, you know, got the whereabouts of themselves, or, you know, to stand up and walk through it, you know. Because, you know, at the end of the day, who is it that they're going to actually go against? They can only go against your straw man. You can't do anything to a living. All right. So you just, well, I've got no contract. Show me the contract. Well, you can't have a contract because, like, you know, Peter, the man, you can only contract with a man. So you're not a man, you're a corporation. So I'm not going to have a contract with you because my corporation is dormant. So there you go. And that's learning how to have the knowledge to stand up to them, you know.
Okay, so how do you look? People have mentioned David Straight in here. When I was in the States, there was a bit of a kerfuffle with can't remember his name now. Gould. the guy who says he's the chief postmaster of America.
Jay Golding. Yeah.
So I met him, and then there was a bit of a fight. And there's people arguing. I've also had other people say the capitalization in the lowercase doesn't matter because it's all about the intention. I mean, there's a lot of confusing information, is what I'm trying to say. And there's people. It's a bit like the truther community. There's people fighting within that and slagging each other off, and it's like, well, what are you doing? I actually think it's all part of God's plan, to be honest, because your own individual path to your full fulfillment and ascension, spiritual fulfillment, is your own path, and all of these things are there just to create all this kind. That's what makes it funny to me, because I just try to observe myself. But for people who are watching this, how can you help them, or where would you point them?
Well, my website for starters, claimyourstrawman.com. Get on the mailing list there, because we send out like tons of different information, you know, not just on about like the law, whatever you want to call it, natural law, common law. You know, we do go on about legislation as well that you can use. Plus, we send out information about like how to get out of the debt as well and fight the debt, which is all fake because they didn't lend you anything in the first place. You know, on the private trusts as well. But the whole thing is as well, which is kind of not similar, but it's definitely along the same lines as you, where you were doing a course to help people like with like, well, look, create your own finance so you're not going to be tied to the system. You did a course of something like about like, you know, sovereignty or something, where they're going to actually make their own like income so that they're not going to be tied. We're now educating people on sort of like, look, let's have a look at this blockchain technology and the distributed ledger technology, where it's all going to be moving into a digital system. And if you don't get on the right side of it, you're going to be reliant on universal income and CBDCs, which is you're going to have, there's 20 coins and you've got a month to spend them or they're going to disappear. All right. So like you can get onto the other side of that and you can actually start learning how to use blockchain technology, learning how to use distributed ledger technology. I'm not saying it's easy. You know, it's like completely smashed my head a few times, but once you actually get into it, I've got people that I'm going to start doing videos with that are going to help educate. And hopefully, because if you don't get into this system knowing it's all going to change, all right, and you know, like if you look back, just you mentioned it before, just so they know, this fiat currency was kind of established by like the Bretton Woods Agreement, right?
1946.
Yeah,
exactly. 1946. Yeah,
exactly. So they actually tied all of the gold to the value of the dollar. So they would like say, give us your gold, which is why we all know what Fort Knox is. So that, you know, in the United States, all the gold was apparently kept in Fort Knox. So the countries, I think it was 200 countries, sold their gold to America for $32 or $35 an ounce. Right. Then they said, we guarantee to sell it back to you at that same price, but we'll hold it all. Now you will all sell, which was the creation, you know, of the dollar being tied as the world's currency, the reserve currency. But then comes 1971, right? And went, well, we're sick of this Bretton Woods Agreement. So what we're going to do is like Richard Nixon's going to get rid of it tying to gold. So we're going to make it completely fiat. So what does it tie to? Well, big zero. All right. So it's now worth nothing and it's backed up by nothing. So say, for instance, the pound was actually linked to the value of the dollar, but it was linked to the value of the pound, the gold. Now we're all linked to the value of bugger all, nothing.
Yeah.
So really, what's happening? The Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank of the central banks, it's like, you know, Mr. Nasty of the Nasties.
Yeah.
Now they've actually just made gold now currency again. Right, they weren't allowed to have gold as a currency. The fiat dollar was only allowed to be currency. Last year, they haven't told anyone, but they have announced it quietly. Right, so now gold is actually a currency again. Now you're seeing all of these countries all over the world. They're not only buying gold, they are holding gold. Okay, so this is what a lot of countries like used to just say, well, I'm going to invest in gold, but you never saw the gold. Now they've took it all off America, the United States, and the UK as well, by the way, because they were the same thing, really, the UK, the US. So what they've done, these countries have actually took all of the gold back physically. So now all of these countries around there, their central banks hold the real gold. right? It's not a value thing to them. So all of these banks are holding that gold. Why? You've got to start looking at things and questioning things, because you are on the verge now, right? Since we know the thing where we said that before, and the Charlie ridiculousness. So they created the quantitative easing, right? Which means, right, they made you stay at home, get pissed in your hot tub, and we'll pay you, right? So productivity zero, but the finance is going up, and it's pouring all of this. They've printed more money in the last 3 years than they have for 100 years before, right? Or for this Charlie nonsense. So zero productivity, because they're all getting drunk at home while they actually print all of this. Well, it's not printing anymore, but all of that fiat currency. So it's pouring it into this big black hole. Then Janet Yellen from the US Treasury, she applies to have the debt ceiling, which has got the hits at the top, right? We need to raise the debt ceiling because we're 85 billion in deficit to pay the pensions. They won't raise it. So now the US Treasury is saying, can I have more money, please, sir? Right? And the Rockefellers and Rothschilds are saying, no, you can't have any. So now they're in a massive deficit now. What is that saying? It's kind of, we are inching closer to the biggest bail-in in history, which is where all of your money will disappear out of your bank. It's not money anyway, all that fiat currency. All right. And then eventually, if you've got, say, the guarantee is what, 85,000 that they'll say that they'll allow you to have in your bank, and they'll replace it for you if there's a bailout. But it's not this time. It's going to be a bail-in. So they take it all. They'll exchange it for this new digital currency. It's already a digital pound. They've already announced it on the Bank of England as a digital pound. Right, but and you're going to get it. So start to educate yourself on how to actually circumvent and go behind it, or else you're going to get stuck on them CBDCs, which are going to be disaster for your life.
So you're not that optimistic then?
But it is because what I'm looking at is going into the learning how to do the blockchain technology, right? So I know that I can move into there and like looking at the cryptocurrencies, knowing where to go, right? So that I can actually create my AI, which is unfortunately, this is also, it's going to wipe out a lot of the jobs for the middle class, because it's all going to go into AI in the next 5 years. But if I've already created my income, right, and looking after myself on the digital exchanges, not using digital exchange, but using it and moving it, don't leave it on the digital exchanges, then I'm not going to have to worry about the CBDCs because I've created my own bank. I have my own bank already.
I mean, let's just explain to people watching this what the blockchain is. So the blockchain is kind of like a double-edged sword. I mean, I worked in crypto a few years ago. Blockchain is basically an irrefutable public ledger.
Private contracts.
And it gets rid of middlemen. So, and everything would be tracked. I mean, if you look at the property sales in the last 100 years, for example, how many of those contracts have been messed about with and backhanders and this, that, and the other? The blockchain gets rid of all of that. So it sounds fabulous. But then we have the incredible amount of fraud that's been going on in crypto. And you've seen like 3 or 4 crypto CEOs suddenly found dead, hanging themselves, shooting themselves, and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of shenanigans going on around all of this. And people are still very confused. And I know there's a lot of people that literally have no idea what crypto is or how it works or anything. And they just, they've got a purse and that's it. And a few quid goes in and they go down to whatever, So there's just this, it's a massive job, whichever way you look at it, educating people firstly, but also knowing the thing. What gets me, Peter, at the moment is that there's a lot of people out there, some people that I personally know, talking about quantum financial systems coming any day, the RVs happening any day. And my advice to people has been, well, really? Can they prove it? And I've never seen any proof. I mean, I've seen bits of stuff that you could take this way or you could take that way.
Yeah.
I put a link up to a guide that I did on investing in gold and silver. If you're interested, that's where I explain what I did, what I've done, because my approach is pragmatic. So let's say in the last couple of years, there've been people saying, right, you're going to buy AMC shares because it's going to be the biggest short in history and we're going to bring down Wall Street. My advice there is get a few AMC shares if you can afford them. They're currently about, I don't know, they're cheap right now. And it's a gamble. And if you've got to spare 100 quid, go and get some. XRP, XELM, XEM, cryptocurrencies, starting with an X. Very interesting. All ISO 2002, I believe, is the right number. Yeah. Very much look like, I mean, XRP in particular for me, although it's not the main one, I think XRP has been in play. I think XRP has replaced the SWIFT system already.
Yeah, at least the Ripple network has.
Yeah, at least 2.5 years. And the only reason I know that is because I do a lot of international bank transfers, and the SWIFT system was the thing where they'd hold the money before they released it into your bank. Now it just goes straight, gets converted straight into XRP, instantaneously taken to the other bank account and then converted. And then it's like, and I've seen international bank transfers going far quicker, but sometimes they go slow. It's like, ooh, we're in 2 or 3 different worlds at the same time.
Because you've got like Swift here, and it's you can't just go switch it off because the world would collapse. Yeah. Right. So it's like it's doing this. It's going over to the actual. Let's just call it the Ripple network, which is a distributed ledger technology, which sounds great. Oh, he sounds clever. What does that mean? Right. Explain it. Well, but there it is. It's private contracts that actually make the money move a lot faster. So you've got. And you've got to remember, Swift was invented, I can't remember, it was like 75 years ago. And that's why it's so outdated and slow and expensive, you know, and that's all it is. So the thing is, when you're hearing people saying there's going to be the quantum financial system, well, you could call it quantum because it's digital, right? But is it going to be sort of like, you know, like some guy riding over like the hill with a white suit on and a suit of armor and a white horse going, here's £1 million, here's £1 million, here, you know, and it's all there. It's coming out of your set of KV truck. I don't think that's going to happen, right? But what you will see, right, and they're calling it a jubilee, right, because it's a jubilee year and we're moving into the white rabbit. I'm a water rabbit, I should say, right, on the Chinese astrology calendar. Right, they are going to have kind of a jubilee because once it's going to be a shaky system, and once they start converting from one side to the other, right, the liquidity, because the fiat's got no liquidity now. The fiat is finished. It literally is finished. Okay, so there's no liquidity in it. When they move it over to the digital currency side, there is going to be, let's just say the easiest way to explain it, right? My house, I owed 100,000. I can now pay it off in a year. So it might look like, oh, well, you see, you know, I told you that, didn't I? You're going to get this debt relief. It's not really like, it's not their purpose. They're not doing that to help you, right? But they can't help but help you because they need to change the system. They do it. It is a reset. It is a reset. Why is it that they need like to get rid of so many people? Because they don't want them arguing that much. So let's get rid of a load of them. It's going to be less hassle to deal with, especially them old ones, because they're going to cost too much money anyway. So let's create something that's going to get rid of loads of them. And then we're going to create something in another couple of years that we'll talk about when we go to Davos. And that'll get rid of all the younger ones and we'll target them, you know. And then the ones that are in the middle, you know, like most of them will have like, you know, took some juice anyway, and they'll all be, half of them would be dead, so we'll not have to worry about that bit either. But so you can see how it's interwoven like that, where it would be easy to try and convince people what were going to happen. But the biggest thing is, what worries me is that people say, I'm not doing anything with cryptocurrency. I'm terrified of it. I don't want to know anything about it. Because then, which is what happens, right? The government come along and say, by the way, you've got to take these digital coins. And that's it. And they don't know anything about it, how to control it. And the next thing they know is it runs out in 30, 60, 90 days. So you have to make sure you spend it all before that 90 days is up, because it's there, like issued.
And then
issued by them.
Then you're in a hamster wheel that you're literally full control.
How are you ever going to buy a house?
You're not.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, everyone, like, you know, that you would save up, you get a deposit, you'd get a mortgage. You're never going to get that once you get into that situation. So, you know, if you would mention like XRP, XLM, that is already being used, right, on the exchanges as an exchange of value. So you can see, I mean, I've got XRP, I've got XLM, I've got various different ones, you know, but I don't listen to one guru, let's call it, and go, I'm going to put everything with him. because the other guy over there is saying he's lying.
Yeah,
and this is better.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm pragmatic. I've said all since I started this. Yeah, get a bit of that, a bit of this, a bit of that, and a bit of this, because nobody actually knows what's going. Nobody that I've seen knows exactly what's going to happen.
No,
what the exact thing that's going to happen is hidden from us and from anybody that says they know it. But the pragmatic thing to do is go, well, that makes sense. That if XRP, for example, gets revealed as the thing that is doing the what do you call it, distributed ledger.
Yeah.
If it gets revealed, then the value of that XRP coin, which is currently 30, 40 cents, is going to be $100,000.
Yeah. You see, like I was down in London a couple of months ago. I can't remember when I was down there. It was September, October, something like that. I can't remember. And I was in the tube stations there, and they've got Ripple advertised. And I'm like, why are they doing that? People are looking at going, Ripple. What does that mean? Is that some kind of ice cream? Well, I bet it's an ice cream, but it's going to be in the head, right? And then the next thing you know is like the Ripple network, and it's, it's just a way of how you can actually move your money from that bank to that bank. And they're going, I've heard of that. Yeah. And it's just easing it in there, But if you look at the BRICS nations, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, who a lot of nations now are applying to join, all of the petrodollar is going to disappear because they're all going, actually, Biden, all right, I love you. Okay. And they're all going on to the BRICS nations when the petrodollar is going to completely disappear because they're all trading in gold.
But all of this is a facade, isn't it?
Well, it's all an illusion.
Yeah, it's all an illusion. So my view is this is all spiritual, it's all part of God's plan. But while you're still here and you've still got to pay bills and you should be enjoying yourself, if you've got anything to then spread it out a little bit. That's all I'm saying. That's what I've done. Just because we don't know, and the bail-ins are real. It happened in Cyprus 10, 12 years ago, didn't it?
It happened here in Newcastle, the Northern Rock Bank.
Oh, they did. Yeah. 2007.
Yeah, they just shut it down. There was queues outside. They had police outside, everyone trying to get in for the money, bailed it in. Boom. That's all ours. But like what you're saying,
they're not giving it back.
No, and that's when it came out that, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll have a height or a ceiling of 85,000 if it ever happens again.
That's right. That
was when they did it.
Because I had an account with Northern Rock. My first mortgage was with them.
And it was like, I think it was 2012 when they did the Cyprus. So there's the little mini run and then a midi run, and now they're going to get ready for the maxi run. Which is what, like gold and silver is always going to be a good bet, but make sure you hold it physically. Don't get any of these that, I've got a token like over there, I've got a certificate, right? Get it, and hold it.
Well, I mix it up because, you can't have loads and loads of.
Well, you got to find somewhere to put it. It gets lumpy under the pillow after a while.
Yeah, I've got a little map in the forest here. You go 15 steps that way. Yeah, and they dug up the tree. It's all gone. I could talk all day, Peter. It's been lovely to see you. Thanks for coming on. Good luck. Give my love to your family. I'm going to go because I've got to do another show later. But that was really interesting. Great chat for a Tuesday afternoon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I always love to come on and have a chat. Been great.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Thanks a lot. See you later.
Bye. Bye, everybody.